N55 bn for presidential fleet maintenance, and the Chinese bank approves $254.76 million loan for Kaduna Railway. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The World News at 12 begins outside the shores of Nigeria, where the United States has accused the Sudanese paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF) of committing genocide and imposed sanctions on its leaders. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on Tuesday said Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, also known as Hemeti, was being punished for his role in what they called systematic atrocities against the Sudanese people during the 20-month conflict. He said the RSF and allied militias were responsible for the murder of men and boys, even infants, as well as brutal sexual violence against women on ethnic grounds. The militias have also targeted fleeing civilians and murdered innocent people escaping the conflict, according to Blinken. In response, the RSF has accused the U.S. of double standards and failing to address the ongoing crisis effectively. The RSF has been fighting the Sudanese military since April 2023, and there has been a growing outcry about its conduct during the war. Both sides have been accused of atrocities, with the conflict leading to one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. Los Angeles has declared a state of emergency as a wildfire exploded from 10 acres to more than 2,900 acres in hours. Fire Chief Kristen Crowley has ordered more than 30,000 people to evacuate as two more fires spread to the northwest of the city. Dramatic footage shows houses ablaze in the Pacific Palisades area and residents abandoning their cars to flee the flames. The fire, which broke out on Tuesday, rapidly spread in incredibly dry conditions and high winds. The winds are forecast to continue fanning the flames down towards the city. France has been accused of causing chaos and instability in several African countries. Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko said this, hitting back at President Emmanuel Macron, ungrateful despite France's military support. At a press conference with French ambassadors on Monday, Mr. Macron said France deployed its military to combat terrorism in some countries in the Sahel region, claiming that the nations would not be sovereign without French support. But Mr. Sonko has condemned the claim. The Senegalese Prime Minister also addressed France's planned troop withdrawals, stating that Senegal's call for the French military's departure was a sovereign decision, contrary to Macron's claim that French forces were leaving the Sahel in agreement with respect. Along talking about the cabals in President Tinubu's government. Apologies, we'll take that during the news analysis segment. The People's Democratic Party (PDP) and the Labour Party have kicked against the 55 billion naira allocated in the 2025 budget to maintain the presidential fleet. This is contained in the 2025 appropriation bill sent to the National Assembly for approval. If approved by the lawmakers, over 55.5 billion naira will be spent on total overhauling of 3 aircraft engines in the presidential fleet, including fueling, fumigation, air navigation, cleaning, and other maintenance of the presidential fleet. The entire aviation ministry's 2025 budget stands at 105.95 billion naira. Meanwhile, at least 19.43 billion naira was spent on the maintenance and the operations of the presidential air fleet from July 2023 to September 2024. Venting his anger on the development, the factional National Publicity Secretary of the Labour Party, Abami Arabambi, described the development as an inhuman and satanic act, adding that spending such an amount of money on the presidential fleet was a misplaced priority. He reasoned that with millions of Nigerians struggling to make ends meet, it is appalling and an wholesome insult to the Nigerian masses that the government would choose to spend such a large amount on a luxury aircraft. Also, the executive chairman of the Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, Debo Adeniro, noted that what Nigerians are getting from these administrations is opposite to expectations, as the administration has fallen in love with profligacy. Meanwhile, the China Development Bank (CDB) has granted a loan of $254.76 million for the construction of the Kano to Kaduna Railway Project in Nigeria. A statement by the bank on Tuesday said the move was to provide financial support for the smooth progress of the project. The statement noted that this railway would also promote the development of related industries along the route, and the construction of an operation of the project would create numerous job opportunities in Nigeria. The project is being constructed by the China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation (CCECC) with financing support provided by the CDB. The CDB stated that in the next phase, it will work closely with the Nigerian side to ensure the continued disbursement of loans and effectively manage the completion of the work. The Ogun State Police Command has raised concerns over a significant increase in reports of missing persons in the state. The command spokesperson Omolola Odutola made this known in a statement in Abeokuta on Tuesday. She stated that the command has noticed an unprecedented rise in the number of missing persons across all age groups. She explained that only a small fraction of the individuals had been found, with many regrettably not returning home. The police image maker urged residents to remain vigilant and more security conscious while prioritizing their safety. She further stated that as a proactive and community-oriented force, the command was committed to raising public awareness about these concerning trend. You're currently listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break and return with the news analysis segment. To stay tuned. Joining me to discuss issues on the world news at 12 this afternoon, I have Mr. Dele Fanimo. He's a revered journalist with many years of experience, as well as a political, social, and national affairs analyst. Welcome to the world news at 12, and thank you for joining me.
Good afternoon, Chairman.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Dele Fanimo. Thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you here. Let's talk about opposition party members actually kicking $50 billion to be shared amongst every other ministries under other agencies under the aviation ministry, but 55 billion naira for presidential fleet maintenance, not purchase of a new one, but maintenance. Why does it seem that
it is? See, let's not go too far in analyzing and all that. It's a shame of the country that we have, when Buhari was campaigning in 2014, in the build-up to the election then, he was running against Jonathan. One of the things he said was that, what is the president doing with 9 aircraft in the presidential fleet? That he was going to sell and retain just 3. But Buhari never got to talk about it for 8 years before he left. Now, Tinubu came with the 9 already on ground. He acquired 2. Now, the fleet has 11 aircraft. If they are saying 50 billion for a year, it is true on the surface. But to what end? The only person that is covered to use presidential jet is the president, the vice president, and their spouses.
So how many can they really use?
How many can they use at a time?
But then when you look at it, the president has been traveling a lot. Yesterday he went to Ghana for the inauguration of Ghanaian President John Mahama.
See, if the president has 2 allocated to him, there is nothing wrong in that. If the vice president gets maybe 2, well, and that's
5 billion naira for maintenance.
What you would have addressed is this. Let me break it down for you to understand why it is just sheer waste of resources. And it is better we understand it before we begin to criticize this. I don't criticize for criticizing sake. I look at issues around what I'm going to talk about. Now, you have aircraft. If you travel with this aircraft, if you don't travel, you must have a pilot and a co-pilot and a cabin crew that you must pay their salaries. 2, if you have aircraft, I'm telling you what applies to even private jet owners. That's why your pocket must be very deep before you keep aircraft. Now, there are mandatory checks. The way you service your car when it is due for servicing is the same way the aircraft, when it is due for servicing, which they call checks. And this is an international standard that you must obey, either you like it or not. 1, there is something called C check. There is something called D check. At regular intervals, you must submit your aircraft for these checks. And in doing this, it doesn't come cheap. It comes in dollars. Sometimes it could be as much as $1 million. So, now, if you are landing in an airport, the moment you land, you pay. For every day that your aircraft is in the hangar, you pay.
But this is the presidential fleet that we're talking about. That you could actually
Even
say
if
it takes more precedence over any other aircraft that will sit at any airstrip.
Let
right?
me tell you. Even if you are the president of the United States of America, except if there is no protocol, you still pay ground rent for this aircraft wherever it lands. So these are the issues. These are the things that you have to mandatorily observe. And in observing this, when you look at 11 aircraft, and if they have to go for the check in 1 year, at, let's assume, $1 million, that's $12 million. Translate that to Naira, you're talking of about close to 17 billion Naira.
But more than half the budget for the aviation ministry on the maintenance of the presidential air fleet.
You see, the ministry's budget is different from the presidential budget. So the 105 is meant for the ministry and the agencies. You understand? There's a separate budget for this aircraft.
All right.
But what I'm telling you is that in all of this, the president does not need to keep 11 aircraft on that fleet. And if we must go by what is going on in Nigeria, the level of poverty, the level of deprivation, the level of want in Nigeria, I think the president does not need more than 4 in that fleet.
All right.
The other 7 should be sold.
Let's talk about actually how this administration has been spending money, and that's why this issue is in the news this afternoon. It's issues in the news, which is why we need to discuss it. Right? In 2024, the EFCC budgeted about 413 million naira for purchase of office furniture and fittings. In 2025, the EFCC is budgeting 500 million naira for office furniture and fittings. Now, the Nigerian Agricultural Quarantine Services set aside 32 million naira for the production of jingles in order to let the public know about their activities. Now, that is not just the case. The Nigeria Space Council has set aside 45 million naira for their meeting and activities, but 1 million naira for advanced training and capacity building on data analytics for satellites. If you go to the 2025 budget, you will see much more of this, where it seems that monies are allocated to what would benefit the people less. What will benefit Nigerians less, but more what will benefit the people who are in those positions. So we're still coming back to the issue of overspending in government.
You don't have to sweat much about this. Capital expenditure and overhead or recurrent expenditure. You understand? If you look at it in any budget in Nigeria, you find out that recurrent is bigger than capital. Capital is meant for improving infrastructure, taking care of roads, hospitals, and all that. But you find out that it's less compared to recurrent expenditure, which is about salaries, emolument, taking care of people, and all that. So, it should, if you understand that, this one should not be a surprise to
All
you.
right. While we're talking about this, I want to move to the former Youth and Sports Minister Solomon Dalong, claiming that they are cabals, insisting rather that they are cabals in President Tinubu's government and they're dangerous and sophisticated. Let's take a listen to him talking on the television show yesterday.
And I think will be very, very unfair to posterity to deny the existence of such very dangerous political element that will take over power, pursue its own ulterior motive using the popular manifesto that was used to gain power. Of course, President Muhammadu Buhari's government had cabal. That is known, and that I've attested to. But I'm saying that President Muhammadu Buhari's cabal was made up of people who were not quite informed, who had little experiences in politics and public administration and governance. And so their activities were more or less limited to their parochial view of understanding of power relations and extending of their hands into helping themselves with public purse. But President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's cabal is made up of sophisticated and ambitious group of people who had a very long history in power. They are experienced, they are educated, and so they have a sound knowledge of what power is. And since they are an ambitious set of people, the presidency will suffer more than that of President Muhammadu Buhari, because their capacity to manipulate power, their capacity to also build either security barricades around the president and stifle information.
All right. He goes ahead to say that they also stop the flow of a human traffic to the president and only let him hear what they want him to hear. But President Tinubu has denied that there is no cabal in his presidency and he's not answerable to anyone. And he does what he wants to do, what he believes is best for the nation. But DeLong is insisting Buhari had cabals. President Tinubu does have cabals who are educated, they are power brokers, they are sophisticated, they are ambitious, they have sound knowledge of power dynamics, despite the fact that the president has kept denying this, right? And we've talked about these budgets and all the monies in it. What I want to talk about is the president not aware that there is a cabal in his presidency, even though Dalong keeps insisting that there is one, and the president insists that there is none?
There is no government that will not have cabal, even in the United States.
That the president would not be aware of.
Just hold on. There is no government that does not have a cabal. You understand? You can't run government in isolation. You must have some people. What do they call them, cabals? These are people that after the whole activities in the day, they retire to a place and do a review and say, President, from what I have seen today, I think this is the right way to go. And this is given this reason and all these reasons. Now, it is the prerogative of the president to either take the advice or not. And that's why where Tinubu is different. At some point, I had worked closely with Tinubu. Tinubu is not one to be caged. I know. Do you know that when Tinubu was governor of Lagos, I was in his convoy as a journalist. Tinubu is somebody that would stop on the roadside and beckon on the street sweeper, which they call street managers now, and mention her name. Iyasidi Ekusheo, God will bless you. As you are cleaning Lagos State, God will reward you and even give out handouts to them. If Tinubu got to any park at that time, he would ask for the head of that park. If he's not available, he will call the second in command, mentioning their names, not who is here.
So what you're saying
That's
is,
how. What I'm telling you is that Tinubu is not one to be captured like Buhari by any cabal.
there are cabals, but they cannot influence the decision of the president.
They can't influence him. I can tell you any day, anytime, because I know him to that extent.
All right. Yesterday, Reno Makri was saying that the present administration considers core northern politicians who are against President Tinubu as its main opposition, not even Peter Obi. You know the issue yesterday with Peter Obi saying his life and his business has been threatened by Felix Moka, who's National Publicity Secretary of the APC. But I do not want to digress. But from this issue, Reno Makri came up to say that Peter Obi is not the main opposition to Tinubu, but core northern politicians. Are these the constituents of this cabal that we speak about?
No. You see, as you are seated, if you become a commissioner in your state tomorrow, some people will find their way around you and constitute themselves as, even when you have not appointed them, they will constitute themselves as power broker within that ministry that you are the commissioner. But it's for you to either listen to them or not. Then, you see this cabal you're talking about, these northern elements that are threatening fire and brimstone towards 2027. They are also doing that, not for the masses in the north, for themselves. They are trying to position themselves in the equation of power in 2007. They are 27. So, for me, this man is a political strategist. He knows how to deal with issues like this, and he knows how to go about it. So I am not afraid for Tinubu, honestly.
Of the cabals going around him to entrench their own decisions.
If you see anybody today that knows Tinubu very well, he will tell you, he will dismiss all this. Because Tinubu is intelligent and is smart enough to make sure that he surrounds himself with intelligent people. Tinubu is not afraid of your intelligence. He wants to tap from your experience, from your wealth of experience. Not that he will just bring one Lilliputian around him.
But you cannot. Well, can you say that the existence of these cabals, does it benefit the Nigerian masses in any way?
You see, that's what I just said. To some extent, Tinubu will listen to you, but is not duty bound to take whatever you have said.
All right, because of our time.
He knows what to do at the right time. Whatever it is, the buck stops at his table. And so let him do whatever he wants to do.
All right, let's talk about the China Development Bank granting a loan of $254.76 million, $254 million for the construction of the Kano-Kaduna Railway project in Nigeria. And they're saying it will create jobs for the people, it will help the country and all of that. But when you look at Nigeria's internal and external debt, it's rising every other day. Do we need to take this kind of loans?
Let me tell you, I've always said it at any opportunity that I have. It is not a crime to take loan. But the only crime there is, did you put it to positive use that will benefit the masses? If you have not done that, then the essence of taking that loan is defeated. Secondly, you mentioned that it will create more jobs. Do you know that majority of those who work in some of these Chinese-backed loans are Chinese?
It used to be constructed by the China Civil Engineering Construction Company. But let's even talk about insecurity. Remember the Abuja to Kaduna train attack? I think it was in 2021 or 2022 or so. It is within the same corridor. How do we know that issues like this will not still crop up after this railway is done and even during the construction of the railway? How about we ensure that there is security in that northern region before we continue to go and embark on projects like this?
If security is not guaranteed, I'm sure those contractors will not mobilize to site. And I am sure that they must have also factored all this before they will mobilize to site. But the important thing is, if there are things to be done, and for the betterment of Nigerians, at any point in time, please, let us do it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Delifanimo, for joining me on the World News at 12. I do appreciate you sincerely with all of my heart.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you and have an amazing day. You have been listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. Just before we wrap up, we'll take a look at the top stories again. You heard that Senegal has accused France of causing instability in African countries. Dalong insists cabals in Tinubu's government dangerous and sophisticated. The position kicks as federal government plans 55 billion naira for presidential fleet maintenance, and Chinese bank approves $254 million loan for Kano-Kaduna Railway. And that is a wrap on the world news at 12. My name is Chioma Innocent. Please follow our social media handles at VOP903FM for coverage of your live events and brand news mentioned in our news bulletins. Do send a mail to news@voiceofthepeople.ng. Good afternoon and thank you for listening. Alhaji Action just came in and he'll be taking Area Matter.